silver has an enormous gap to fill. Don't believe me? Check out the graph on the screen. This is a chart of the gold to silver ratio, and we are just coming out of a, well, looks like a bad time for silver, but heading into a much better time as there's this huge gap that it needs to fill. So guys, you definitely want to stick around for today's episode, because we're gonna be talking about the positive outlook for silver in the future. But before we get to that, hit that subscribe button down below. I think a lot of people subscribed yesterday, so really appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining. Let's get into it. So as you see here, the Fibonacci retracement is pretty much placed on this gold to silver chart here. And at the very top, we hit a high recently of about 80 to 1. So 80 pieces of silver or ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. Now, the interesting thing here is that the gold to silver ratio is actually a misnomer. It should be the silver to gold ratio, given the fact that silver is in the numerator and gold's in the denominator, but I digress. But as you see here, we are testing support in the price action for the gold to silver ratio. And I honestly believe that we'll start to head down, and I'll show you why in another chart after this. But what is the next level that we should expect after 73? Well, it looks like we had a lot of behavior happening right around the 71 level, 71.60. So that's another one. Right after that, we have 69.42, then 66.42. And then all the way down here, we have right around 62.59. Now, when was the last time that we saw that? Well, let me scroll down a little bit so you can see better and move this over. So the last time that we got that low was pretty much right around February. So there's this huge gap that obviously we need to fill. And if you take a look at the MACD right around here, we've pretty much been in mostly positive territory since the end of May. And those of you who are veterans of investing with TJ in this channel, you guys know what I like to talk about right around the end of May going to recent times. You guessed it, a lot of attention was being focused on Delta, which gave much more of a rise to gold relative to silver. They both were kind of weaker around that time, unfortunately, but there's a much more, I guess you could say, power or disparity in favor of gold during that time, as you can see represented here. But in recent times, things have really shifted, and things are now going more so in favor of silver ever since the beginning of October. I mean, and pretty aggressively. So we have a lot more of this negative space to take advantage of, which we had been in prior times. So again, huge gap to fill here in the near to medium term. Now, is there another signal for us to see in the technical aspect or technically that we can point to? And you guys also know, those of you who are veterans on this channel know that I like looking at moving averages because it's a nice, quick and dirty way to see where the direction is heading. And as you can see here, again, this is the gold to silver ratio. We are starting to see the moving averages close. And I like to use the 20, 60, and 250-day moving averages. That's the month, quarter, and year. And as you can see here, we start to edge down right before we start to hit a high here in the gold to silver ratio moving average of the 20-day. And right when we hit that high in the 20-day, we had this huge drop, huge big red candlestick, and we started to head lower. And this is again in favor of silver. And as you can see here, the 20-day is about to cross below the 60-day. And as you guys know, when the sea change actually starts to take effect, we should really start to see things move dangerously well in favor of silver, especially when the 20-day crosses below the 250-day. And you guys know what that is. That is the quote unquote death cross. But in this scenario, if you're in favor of silver, that would be a quote unquote gold cross. You could kind of think of it in a de facto way. So basically, to start off in today's episode, looking at the technicals, indicators, moving averages, price action, things look like we have a gap to fill for silver and they are headed that way. Now, let's talk a bit about what others have to say regarding this price readjustment between gold and silver. Now, this article I'm about to read is actually written by Money Metals Exchange, a online dealer. So, you know, there's going to be a little bit of a incentive for them to write this or speaking so positively about gold and silver. But let's see what they have to say about the gold to silver ratio. The gold to silver ratio currently checks in at about 76-1. It still has a lot more room to narrow in favor of silver during a precious metals bull market. So again, other people, Money Metals Exchange is even saying, hey, there's a lot more room to go here and a lot more of a gap here to fill for silver. And now they also point to historical trends. In the 1980 peak, the ratio came close to hitting 16-1, which is often referred to as the classic ratio observed going back to ancient times. Meanwhile, the current mining ratio is only about 7-1, according to First Majestic Silver CEO Keith Neumeyer. That is to say, mines worldwide are producing 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold they bring to market. So what they're essentially insinuating is that we should see this thing really drop significantly. Now, there is one thing that I like to throw in here is that there are different regimes that happen with any asset, whether it's gold, silver, what have you, that impact their behavior. Again, before we got off the gold standard, and we were actually in a bimetallic standard for a while up until the late 1800s. A lot of people don't know that. When we got off that gold standard, it really changed the behavior of gold and silver. As you guys know, the prices started to rise aggressively as it was essentially artificially tethered to a certain amount of dollars. And then it got off, and then it really started to have its moment of price discovery, as it's pretty much currently engaging in for the foreseeable future as assets adjust, such as the dollar, in perpetuity. And what I'm trying to say essentially is that as things move forward, there are going to be these different regimes that impact silver and gold that will change its behavior. And it could be the current one that we have right now with the floating exchange rate, or it could be one where there's a fixed rate. So that's just another caveat here to consider. I would also throw in that with cryptocurrency, there's a little bit of a new regime there as well. So let's continue here and also talk about some of the other points to consider when it comes to silver and the gap to fill. Now, this article that I'm about to read is actually a little bit older, but I think it actually is important to take note of. So let me actually make this a little bit smaller for you guys. Okay, silver is up over 70% in a year. Here's why experts say it could have further to go. Now, remember, this was written May 13th. And remember how I said that things really start to change around late May. It looks like we're getting back on track here, guys. And it looks like whatever these guys are saying around late May, it looks like we're trying to get back on track to where we were before. So let's go down and see exactly what I want to talk about here. And I quote, industrial demand is probably the main reason why we've seen silver outperform gold as it has over the last year. Part of that rise is definitely coming from industrial metals, which have really been on a tear. If you look at copper prices, they've more than doubled since hitting a low point last year. Additional factors have also played into silver's rise, such as the shift towards green technologies, which have spurred a rise in demand for industrial metals such as silver, which are used in solar panel production. For instance, the massive amount of central bank and government stimulus over the last year has also fueled concerns around inflation, with precious metals like gold seen as a hedge against rising prices and a decrease in the value of the dollar. On Wednesday, actually, let me just scroll down to this quote here because this is the most important part. If gold rallies, then silver tends to rally, but even stronger. Now, guys, I've told you this before in my own personal silver and gold and copper models. I've seen this play out myself. If gold rallies, it is one of the strongest ties with silver as far as bringing the silver price up. And I continue. So most investors, silver investors, are probably keeping a close eye on gold prices, the level of the dollar, and the level of interest rates. And again, those are also inputs on my silver and gold models. So this is something that I'm also paying attention to as well. And things are looking pretty good for both assets. So that is the, long-term trajectory. But let's take a look at a silver price forecast that I think is also pressing to talk about as well. Silver markets have rallied rather significantly during the course of the week. Now, guys, this is written recently. Breaking above the 50-week EMA. The $25 level above is significant resistance barrier and something that we need to pay close attention to. If we can break above the $25 level, then I suspect that silver is ready to start rallying, reaching towards the $28 level above. The recent move, of course, has been very bullish, and I think we are seeing here, and I think what we're seeing here is an attempt to regain the top of the consolidation area. So again, a lot of people are seeing a strong move right now currently in silver. And again, when we take a look at the gold to silver ratio, those moving averages are not lying. They look like they want to cross back below to where things were several months ago. So things are looking really positive for silver. Looks like there's a gap to fill, and we're heading into the November, December, January months that were very important that I talked about in yesterday's episode. So if you didn't catch yesterday's episode, check it out at the end of this video. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching.